Hey there. I guess my audio on that last one wasn't too good. Tried that at home on the laptop and still got to figure out that I'm not the most savvy computer guy. But what I was talking about with our senses is the fact that ballers want to tell us that you cannot trust your senses. My senses tell me I'm not spinning. My senses also tell me there's no curvature. But you don't feel that because of a constant motion from what we're told. And they like to compare it to riding in an airplane at a constant rate, how the stewardess gets up and walks back to you and can pour you your coffee and not spill it on you. True. But that plane to be compared to the planet and not feeling the spin would have to be somewhat similar in its motions, meaning the planet's spinning on its axis, so that means the plane would have to spin on its axis. The planet is spinning around the sun, so that means the plane would have to be flying in a circle. That's just two of the motions, and not the spinning one going through the galaxy with all the motions. So for the plane analogy to equate to the motions of the Earth, it'd have to be spinning on its axis and then flying in a circle, and you're going to tell me I'm not going to feel those motions? So please compare apples to apples when you bring up why we don't feel gravity, why we don't feel any spin. The constant motion thing that you use with the plane or driving in a car, it's not comparing apples to apples, because we're spinning, we're tilted and wobbling and going around the sun. Those are just two of our motions that we don't feel, but in a plane, you're talking about just one straight movement. You go down, you feel it. You make a turn, you feel it. But yet not on the planet, because those laws are suspended. So going to our senses, that this reality or paradigm that we exist in, they don't want us to trust our senses. And I use the example of baseball. I don't know how many people have played it, but when you talk about a pitcher throwing a ball 90 miles an hour, from 60 feet away, that hitter has less than a half a second to make up his mind on whether or not he's going to swing. If he's going to swing at this object that's moving at him at 90 miles an hour and not straight, it could be dipping away, it could be curving in, it could be going up or down, depending on the spin of the ball, the laces, etc. So a gentleman who's holding a round object, a bat, has less than a half a second to figure out if he wants to hit this thing being hurled at him. Less than half a second. It takes great hand-eye coordination as well as senses, your eyes, your hands, to sense where that ball is going to be when you need to make contact with it, and have that ability. This task is so hard that if you're successful 30% of the time, you're a Hall of Famer. You are a Hall of Famer in baseball if you're successful 30% of the time. Now, I don't know too many other professions that if you're successful 30% of the time, you're a Hall of Famer. Surgeon, field goal kicker, you'd lose your job. What else? Actuarian, prognosticator. If you were correct only 30% of the time, you wouldn't have a job. That's how hard it is to hit a moving object going 90 miles an hour, not straight, with another round object. So those senses are pretty fine-tuned. And then an outfielder has the sense and the ability to understand the crack of the bat, the sound that is made, to tell how well it was hit, the angle in which the ball leaves the bat, the parabolic trajectory, how fast to run, what angle to run, and maybe even have to leap up over a wall to extend to catch this small object that's hurling away from him. His senses allow him to make those judgments on depth, speed, and angles instantaneously. Again, we're talking about people whose reaction times have to be instantaneous, but their senses are honed that well that they can do this. So to tell me that my senses, because again, I played baseball, recruited for pros, my senses were honed pretty good. I could hit pretty good. I could feel pretty good. I reacted pretty well. So my senses allowed me to progress pretty far in athletics. And then to have someone tell me, well, when it comes to sensing if you're moving or sensing if you can detect curvature, well, you're just off. You're either too small or you don't understand constant motion. I understand both. I'm not too small. I've been up high enough. Cameras have been up high enough. There is no detectable curve and there's no detectable spin. So an environment was created for us not to trust our senses. And I have a problem with that because my senses did well for me. I was able to rely on those. Our ancestors, if you believe in evolution, had to rely on their senses to get us here today to where we are so we can use electronic devices. Because before we had technology to rely on, it was our senses. They didn't worry about Coriolis effect when David, let's say, used a sling on Goliath, if you want to believe in that stuff. But hunters used slings, hunters used spears, hunters used arrows. And there was no Coriolis effect or curvature even worried about. And you say, oh, well, they wouldn't have to worry about it. Right, because it's not moving. You don't have to worry about it. Your senses are not lying to you. Trust your senses. Don't trust some authority figure telling you they have it figured out. You don't understand it and just go about your business. So that's what that first video is about. Tried it on the computer at home. Apparently the audio wasn't the greatest. So I figured I'd send out this short one about our senses and how our paradigm doesn't want us to trust our senses because we feel no spin, we see no curvature, and there sure as hell isn't any gravity. Flat lines, peace out.